Hello, this is Gene. I just want to talk about something today. Um, I saw a video that I didn't realize was out there, and somebody who's in this in this movement, I guess, about men's rights or everything, which I've been in forever. I don't talk a whole lot about it on here anymore. Um, when I started this channel years ago, it was after my stroke to allow me to watch myself talk and hear it, to get myself back as close as I could to what I was before my stroke happened. And then during that time, I also started looking at other things, and I got into the men's rights movement, just really to be more of a more fair um, system for men when it comes to like family courts and mental health and things like that. And of course, it was a very difficult time. Still is. People don't really give a shit about men, no matter what we do. The studies or the suicides or whatever, we just don't. We're not valued, and that's unfortunate. As I get older in life, I'm probably in my fourth quarter of my life, let's say. Um, you realize this more and more when you have our silent times with ourselves. We have that conversations with ourselves. Whether or not what we did was enough, things like that. And I'll talk about that probably a little bit later in the video. But I just want to talk about a video I saw that I don't understand how I've not seen it, because I'm on TikTok a little bit, or YouTube, never seen it, and then I finally heard it from Dax, what it means to be a man. And of course I watched it, and of course it made me tear up, because what he says is 100% true. And now for each person, you can get different meanings from the lyrics that are in there. But it was fun to see, and just because it's been 6 months, it's been out. They've had a lot of other collaborations with other content creators, and also Hootie did one with him, and he did a whole little verse as well, and that's all great. And all these other people doing this stuff, and some girls were doing this stuff, and that's all great. But what I did notice, because once you go there, it kind of happened with that the rich man from Richmond or whatever it was. You sit there and you listen to it, then you watch the people that react to it, and see how they respond to it. What I did see was, there is an epidemic of the modern woman. And this was kind of like broached by me on Twitter. And I'm going to still call it Twitter. I don't care what it's called anymore. There's a girl that I've been following for a while. She's kind of, I'm not going to say she's a white identitarian, but she moved out of Seattle to go to, I think, somewhere in Idaho. So she's around more people like her. And I understand why. She's just married, want to be in an area that will, what she thinks will be more safe for her kids and all that. So she put something out on Twitter yesterday talking about, she was responding to someone else, and then she came out and said that, well, in white families, that only less than 1% that are, well, let's say 99% of them have the father, and the mother is their actual DNA parent, let's say. And we've all heard the statistics that when they did these studies, that there was like 30% when they actually looked at it, that guys are involved in a relationship where they are not fathers. They're not fathers DNA wise of their kids, and we've heard it's like 30%. And I think that study probably was done in a black area. So she came out and said, yeah, it's probably less than 1%. And I just responded to her. I said, look, and I called her by her first name. That's probably why she responded to me. I said, I think it's doubtful that it's less than 1%. I think that it probably won't be at the same level, but it's clearly more than 1%. Then she responded to me and said, well, the study says that it's 2%. And I said, I don't care what studies it says. I said, what you're talking about is we won't know until everybody has their paternity test when the kids are born. And that's, as a men's right advocate, or somebody that thinks that should be fair, I think that why not? have the mother, when they're in the hospital, you have to check for blood anyway. The man should come in there. If he's going to put his name on that birth certificate, he should also be, his blood should be drawn. And when the baby comes out, the blood should be drawn from the baby. And then you would know. And then we know what the actual the statistic is. And then she says, no, there's 22 studies about it. And in my own social background, and I'm like, are you talking about other white people that are married with somebody that have the same conservative values of you, that it's 1%? And then other people are like, a lot of people are on my side too, because this idea that says, she sent me a study saying that men that are in a monogamous relationship have this firm belief that their kids are theirs. And I said, that means nothing. So we hope the kids are ours because we have not had sex with any other women. But pretty much everybody, that's like half the people that are marriages cheat. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe that, okay? I said, that's just a theory. That doesn't mean anything. Well, it's not a theory because we've had 22 studies on it. And I'm like, and I finally responded to it. I said, good God, I've said now 3 times that what we should do is have paternity tests, or at least give the opportunity to the parents, have the blood taken for the baby as well, and have that test done, and then we'll fucking know. And they said, well, that'll be okay. This another girl came in. If the father has to pay for it, I said, they're going to pay for it anyway. It's going to be on the bill regardless. The woman is going to get her blood drawn there anyway, so they can use that blood for the DNA, or they just to tap. They just have to tap it or type it. If one's a O and another one's a O and a baby comes out AB or whatever, he's not the father. I mean, he clearly got out of her. There are ways you could do it, and most men would do it. And it's like these women still believe that the modern female is like it was 50 years ago. It's just not. And the idea that, and I responded to her. I said, do you believe that how the epidemic of the modern women and what they do, that you just believe that guy just shows up, they have sex together, and then a baby comes out 9 months later, that the chances are that maybe it's not his? When women are out there already say they're going to have all these bodies on time, they might have him right here, and then when he's not around, he's doing this shit over here, and then she decides which one she wants to be the baby or be the baby father of it. This is just her. I mean, she has issues, right? We all have issues when we see certain things in the black community, and she brings it up all the time, and she's putting all this shit on the black community. Sorry, the white community may not be as bad, but it happens as well. So when I'm sitting there, this is after I just listened to Dak's thing yesterday, and then Dak comes out, and she has to, almost like, she's like in denial about it, saying that the women now don't do this shit. And it's been part of the last 50 years of being pushed, that saying, have as much dick for your entire life, and then you decide what you want to do after that. And the idea that this doesn't happen, I think 1% is just foolhardy. You know, if we're gonna narrow it down to been married for 25 years, and it gets down to might be 1%. But when you talk about when a man and a woman gets together, have sex, and then she claims he's the father, he puts his name on it, or whatever, the state puts his name on it, you have to look at that. I'm clearly sure that those that are considered white, having sex with another white person that produces a offspring, it's not 1%. I'm sorry. Unless you're going to talk again, you're going to talk about they've been together for 55,000 years, they've had 2 other kids, and then you can have all these caveats. But all I said is a person that says, hey, just be fair about it. The baby's going to get it bud triped anyway. Get that done and have him done. He might already have that information. You know, if I was in the military, I know what I'm being positive. I already know what it is. If my wife is something else and there's no way that I could be involved as the baby, fine. If you don't really know, if it's kind of indifference, then you go to DNA and do it. And they should pay for it. It should be part of the bill. Of course, your health care should pay for that. No man should not know. This is the thing. They want it both. It's like, yeah, I can just go and decide who's going to be the father. You know, they want to have the baby that, or they want to have pro-choice and kill it if they want, or also then they want to decide who's actually the father. Sorry, Rebecca, people are not getting married. They're having babies without not being married. So you cannot continually just trust women. Am I supposed to trust them when they say that they got raped all the time? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've talked about this, not to believe all women when they say shit happened to them. Uh, this is the same shit. They lie about this all the time. And I'm sorry. I'm glad that you're on their side, that you think the better of women, especially white women, that you think that they are better than other races when it comes to this. And there are some that just don't know. True. But that means that they're out having sex at the same time they're having sex with this other person. And then they choose who they want to be the father. You understand the problem there? Anyway, so I'm listening to Dax's video, and I'm like, man, this shit really hits home. And I'm like thinking about myself, and I'm like, I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of stupid shit that I've done in my life. Almost had like a guardian angel on my side, stopping me from doing shit. But nobody really cared. If the shit happened to me before I got married, nobody would have cared. My parents might have cared a little bit, but nobody would have came to my rescue or marched in the street for me or anything like that. What the interesting thing about this whole video and this song is just looking at how the men look at it, how they react to it. I looked at like 15 different reactionary people, and there was one girl that was just very understood it, let's say. And then she said things that I couldn't believe that she actually said. I said, yeah, men, and right now it's so bad for them, especially white men. And I'm like, I don't ever hear this shit. I mean, she's there by herself saying this on YouTube. Now, she means all men, of course, but she means especially white men because everything's being pushed at them saying that they're the problem. You know, and so when we have young men that hear this shit since they're 5 years old in schools and then they're 25 years old, they know that there's no way they can really complain. So you have then you have other women on there that are watching this stuff, and one there's with her husband, and they start talking about, well, we don't want men to be feminized, we want them to be men. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what the music is about, the lyrics is about. You know, they talk about gender roles and stuff. This is feminist theory coming back at us again. You know, he does in his video. He talks about we don't know how to express ourselves, and there's a reason why we don't, because we know that it could be used against us. If we open up to our significant other, they'll leave it in the back of their mind when we need, or something happens, a fight or something, and they'll bring it out. And they will bring it and they'll use it against us. Women can be very manipulative. I've said many times on this channel that God made men more physical, I think overall more logical, but they allowed women, they have the ability to manipulate, to be more rational with the way they use their words. Their verbal acumen is better than men. And they know things that just go right into men and could just destroy them, because they couldn't beat us any other way. This is how they're better than us when it comes to this. And too many men just allow it and just say, oh, I'm not going to fight it. So there's so many things there about, he makes this statement in his lyrics about men don't know how to express themselves, and these women get on there and say, yeah, you know, they just don't understand the gender roles has kind of changed, and you know, and I'm like, and I'm thinking there are a lot of guys that said, you know what, I'll stay at home with the kids, you go do what I did, and they'll be fine with it. It's not hard. It really isn't. It doesn't mean anything, though. I mean, I'm not comparing, because I still would want my wife at the home raising my kids, because women have their role, and that is one of them. And it's also to instill in the new generation what women have is empathy, the ability to be agreeable, whereas men cannot be that way. It can be very black and white. We have men are more risk-taking, so you have women at their home trying to stop the boy or the girl trying to put shit in the electric socket, and then the man comes at home at night and says we have to allow him to fail. And that's usually later on. You know, at the first 5, 6 years, the woman's going to make sure that they don't kill themselves, don't fall into the pool, shit like that. But when a man, when the boys start going to school and the girls starts going to school, you have to understand the different things. And girls, you need to be vigilant to things around you. Boys, you need to do this, and you can't go if he falls outside on the ground. You can't go and pick him up. He has at some point to understand what failure is, and then be successful by getting himself up. And these are things that we instill. But feminist theory, Marxism, all this stuff that we've been forced down our throat for the last 50 years is saying this is all wrong. That basically a girl and a boy are basically the same, and there should be no gender really involved with that. And that we should almost, I mean, we had the whole generation of helicopter parents that they wouldn't allow their kid to go outside. And now instead of having that, we just have iPads and phones and TVs. So people never go out and do anything. They don't really have a social network other than what's on the phone. Some do. Some of the small areas do it. They go out to do the bonfire and they're sitting in the back of the truck and they're looking on their phone. So, but at least they're around other people. But these things have all kind of changed. But all that time doesn't really change the fact that men have nobody really to talk to. And then the thing is, you say, go talk to people. They're like, men just don't know how to talk, so they don't seek help. I've tried to do shit like that. You know what happens? You end up seeing people that have been trained by the same indoctrinated places, and they are all based on the same feminist bullshit. What do you think she was thinking about that when you said that to it? I said, I don't give a shit what they were thinking. There was something that happened that was going on in my mind, and I want to understand why, how to do that, how to cope with that, so I don't blow up on her. Well, maybe you should understand her side of you. I mean, wait a second. Why are we talking about her? I have to change what's going on here. Now, what do you think by that? You have to change yourself to conform to whatever the society is. Oh, you know, what you said could be considered offensive. What did I say that was offensive? Gene, don't be so loud when you're talking about stuff like this. And if I say that I don't like what's going on in Israel, and I don't like the government in Israel, Gene, you need to bring that down. You bring it down. Don't want to. And I'm like, why? Why do I have to muzzle myself when it comes to stuff? So anyway, and like I said, I would, if you have not seen it, please go watch that video and then go look at some of the reactionary ones. I don't know if I already talked about it. There was a 3-generation women that were there. The older woman, probably a little older than me, and then another woman, probably might have been a young Generation X, and then her daughter. And they're watching this shit, and none of them are tearing up. None of them. And at the end of the day, the woman did say this. She said that men do kind of hard right now. People don't really care about that. That was the middle one, was probably for my generation. And then she said, but I really like his voice, and I like how his hair is, because his hair is kind of like spikes up. So they're talking about, and the young girl has no clue what's going on. She said, it's a good song, and it's that out. Meanwhile, this movie or this video, you know, everybody's the shit that they're actually describing is so powerful, and these women just don't get it. And then the old woman doesn't get it at all. There's just such a huge gulf about how we understand each other. The society has changed so much to empower women, and then women get upset because they go into fields that are dominated by men, and then they don't like how that, and they have to change everything there. They do that in relationships. They have to continually change you, and that's kind of like what they do. And then the one that really got me kind of upset was that I think these two people are married, and the woman clearly is a modern woman. She's on. I mean, she's just. Look, I don't like a lot of makeup. She has way too much on herself. She's trying to look like Kim Kardashian, and he's over there. Hairline is going back. I don't think they're going to be together that much longer. I don't think. And he started saying, I don't want men's to be feminized. You know, I want us to be strong and shit like that. And that's all great. But you're talking about gender roles again, and you're talking about what the feminists talk about. And then he says then he starts talking about it more at a deeper level about men feel. And she's just looking at him like, it's like they don't fucking understand, because they've been taught since day one that everything should be about them. And if it's not, they'll just go on the phone, and they'll get the intention that way. And it's very, very difficult. And I don't blame women per se, but if they don't get the intention, this is what happens to them. And then there was one other one at the end that I found that there were people, they were a little bit older, like probably in the late 40s or late 30s. They did that, and you could see that she when the shit was going on in the actual video, she kept touching her husband on her hand, his arm and stuff like that, and she could feel what he was going through. And I'm gonna tell you that when I talk about being vulnerable to a woman that you've been with forever, right, and you think that I could do that, and then later on in life it's used against you. I never cried in front of my wife, never, until I think my third stroke, or it was my second. I think it was my third. That was here, because it had been like 10 years since I had another one, right? I had one, and then a year later I got a smaller one, and then I went like 10 years without having one. And it was really bad because I was awake during it, and my son had to go through it, saw it, and he had to help me. And you feel like dog shit because he saw that, because especially my young son, my special needs son, he looks at me. I think he has that still. He thinks I'm a hero in a lot of ways. But so I was in the thing, laying in the thing, and she came up to me, and all of a sudden I just couldn't. It just came out of me. And because you feel like you're a failure, because you think that it's over, because if you go, that she's not going to be protected and provided, and you got your son, and you got your other son that hasn't really, at that point, hasn't got his act together. You don't have a good really relationship of your older daughter that you would like to have. These things go through your mind, and you feel like you're a failure. And I'm thinking, there ain't nobody there that's going to talk to. So I'm just sitting there doing this stuff, and she looked at me, but there are so many times, especially modern women, they say they want men to be vulnerable. What they really want is their men that they're not going to have sex with to be vulnerable. Because most women, when they look at men, when they do that, they lose respect for them. And they'll tell you this. You watch them on these shows. Ask them if a man starts, crying on your shoulder, what you do, and they don't like it. They'll call it an ick. They want, as much as they want men not to be masculine, they fucking do. They want men to provide and protect. They want them to, whether that's through DNA or how we're born, or it's our gender roles. Society looks at this shit. When these feminist theories and all that look at what society does, and they say, see, society forces men to be providers. Well, no, that's been how it's been done since God told us to do it. So you're in charge of the earth. Go take care of it. We're not doing a great job with that. But it's just interesting to see how women look at things, and I don't really totally blame them. But the thing is, if you're on social media and you have a pretty good following as a female, why would you care about whether? I mean, there are so many men that are always going to give you attention all the time, that they're going to continually do it. So what I thought of women 20 years ago is now 5,000 times worse now, and how they look at men. And if men say anything, then we're something else. If we say, no, we don't want women to be competing against men, or men competing against women, then you're misogynist or you're sexist. Oh, but men want to have their own spaces. You're misogynist, you're sexist. It's now everything's being blurred, and we're supposed to let it go. Meanwhile, these women are sitting down at home, 30 years old, been ran through in their 20s, and they're just hoping that a masculine man comes along and provides for her. The problem is that's not happening. It's like I said to Rebecca, most people are not getting married. So the idea that we can just trust women when it comes to the maturity of the kids that we have is foolhardy. It's not true. You'd love the women that would be that way, but why would they? Because everybody gives them attention. Even very average women can have 25 guys giving them attention, and probably 5 in town that will come over and do stuff with them. It's true. It's just how it is. We have this now because we have the social media stuff. And guys will look at women like that as, they're just something to have sex with. So now we're in this position now. Now you can talk that society, you can talk about whatever. It's all part of it. So it's just interesting to see most of the guys obviously understood what that thing was trying to say. The idea that we can't express ourselves, there's a reason for that. And then part of it is the old school that you have to look strong and tough and all that. The other stuff is knowing how the family court looks at men, and everything seems to be against us. So why do we just all of a sudden just show our feelings to anybody? It's very, very hard, and it's rare that men do it. It is. They'll go, how we do it, and you'll see at the very beginning of the video. Now he's done different collaborations, but when he's sitting in the car and he's just sitting there before he goes in the house, and we don't know what's going on in that man's mind, but I've been there. All of us have been there. We just sit in that car for a little bit longer before we go in, because all the shit happened to us at work or all that shit, we have to get it away. And we got to go in there and we got to see our kids and our wife and all that stuff. And we got to go become father or whatever, or husband at that point. And it happens all the fucking time. And I'm just thankful. I'm just, like I said before, I think I've had a guardian angels. I've made so many bad decisions in my life, in my 20s. Driving drunk, could have killed people. I've had a lot of health issues, but I'm still here. I mean, today, something could happen to me. But 48 or 58, I'm still here. 3 times strokes, two things with cancer. But I'm thankful where I'm at. But what I'm going to do, and why I started this channel, is that whether or not anybody cares, really, if just one person sees this video and says, I understand what you're saying, and I'm going to look at help. You know, people that says they get so, there's nobody can help us. There are people that will listen, will at least listen. And I'm here to listen. And when I did my bladder cancer thing, I used to have a little thing about it. And there were a lot of young people that would come on there and says, my dad has it, you know, and they're very, very upset. And I try to explain to them that, you know, it's a good thing. Depending where it's at, he'll probably be fine. You know, they're very, very upset. They don't want to lose their parents, stuff like that. So I've had 4 or 5 guys that did that, and they feel better after that, and they get more empowered, and I give them some information. It's the same thing with this. We don't want guys to kill themselves because they can't express themselves. We have to fight for men's spaces, real men's spaces, to have these type of conversations and not be frowned on about it, saying, well, can't have women in there. They just don't understand. The whole system of mental health is not set up for men. It's set up for women, because women are more verbal. And also a lot of people that are in there have gone through that same training, and they just don't really understand. They just don't, because most of them are women. So anyway, I'm going to stop right now. Really, if you're still watching this, if you have any issues, there are several hotlines you can go to. If you're a veteran, of course, you know you can go to the VA and talk to the suicide prevention stuff. And I'm here too. I will talk to you in the comments, and if it gets further than that, I will call you if you need to be talked to. We've all been there, and it's why those type of movies, those type of songs just really get to us. And when you see men actually cry or tear up, this is why, because when we can't, I mean, we're not women, okay? But there are certain things that makes us emotional, because we've seen it in other men. When I look at other men and we're having this conversation, and you can see what they've gone through, and you can see it in their eyes, you know. And again, I've been very fortunate. I've been blessed in a lot of ways. I haven't had a very hard life in a lot of ways. Part of what I was going to do in this video, I was going to go around and show you my house. I'm a 1% person. I'm not a millionaire, but I'm in a 1%. Or 2% or whatever. I don't know. We're making well over 100,000 a year every year. We don't pay for anything. We just have a little bit left in the house. I have a pool. I have a 3,000 square foot house. I have almost an acre of a lot. I'm good. I'm good. Unfortunately, my wife always wants more, and that's something you're gonna understand about women. They just have that thing in them. You know, it's every time she gets something on Facebook, it says, I'm going to win money this year. I'm like, to do what? I mean, seriously, I can go through here and look all the shit that we have that we don't need. You know, my whole thing would be, is I would get rid of everything. I still probably have to have a TV or a big iPad or something. And I'd be on a river or a lake in the mountains, 2 or 3 bedroom, doesn't have to be that big, nice front porch, look out at the river, have a small boat that I can go around the river, have a nice ATV to go around my land, and a truck to go into town to get shit. If I had to go further into town to like Walmart or Costco or something like that to fill it up and bring it back, and I'm good. I'm good. I'm 100% good. I want to see the seasons change. Doesn't have to be crazy ass. Doesn't have to be 95 feet of snow. It could be maybe in northern Georgia or areas like that. And I'm good. I'm good. I've had so much material shit in my life. The amount of money that I've spent on video games, movies, TVs. It's like a small country when you think about it. I mean, I've clearly made over millions and millions of dollars in my life. You know, I worked for 40 years. Yeah, clear, yeah. I've made in the neighborhood of $3, $4, $5 million, and I spent pretty much all of it. I mean, whatever. I mean, we have a decent amount of savings as well, but I'm good, you know. But there are guys that like they're living day to day, and you see that in the video that he's like past due and all that shit, and you're dealing with it. And then, of course, when that always happens, you have problems with kids or medical bills. I mean, fortunately, I was in the military when Kyle was born. I mean, his bills would have been well over $1 million. And now he's got Medicaid and Medicare now, as an adult. He's an actual adult now. But anyway, I'm going to stop. Again, if you're still watching, thank you. Subscribe, share, whatever. I think this is a very important video. I don't know if I'll get any videos or views on it, but I think that song really means something. And it's just interesting to see how women look at it. And again, it's not all women, because most women are empathetic, except sometimes against other men and that or males. It's just weird how they're very agreeable and stuff, and they want to do things, but sometimes they're not really that good when it comes in the house. Anyway, you guys have a good day, and we will talk to you later.